The sort of separation of kids from their families, the lying about it, the putting of kids in cages, I think is really reprehensible. And I think religious leaders, and people in general need to to call it what it is, which is sin.
In a country that enshrines separation of church and state in the Constitution, we never need to use religion to justify a government policy, but American politicians love to do it. And the Trump administration is doing it to justify their policy of child abuse at the southern border. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has cited what he calls biblical justification, using a Bible passage that was frequently used to justify slavery. And now Kellyanne Conway has come along and pulled Catholicism into this fight, at the same time that the Pope and Catholic bishops and Catholic priests have objected to what the president is doing to children at the southern border. Kellyanne Conway used an unusual preface to her comments yesterday in which she repeated the Trump lie that what's happening to children on the southern border is the Democrats' fault and not a direct order issued by Donald Trump. Here are the words Kellyanne Conway used to try to build credibility to her lying yesterday. She said she was speaking, quote, as a mother, as a Catholic, as somebody who's got a conscience.
As a mother, as a Catholic, as somebody who's got a conscience and wouldn't say the junk that somebody said, apparently, allegedly, I will tell you that nobody likes this policy. You saw the president on camera, that he wants this to end, but Congress has to act.
And joining us now with their reaction, the Most Reverend Michael Curry, presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, and Father James Martin, Jesuit priest and the editor-at-large of the Catholic publication America Magazine. And Father Martin, I'm going to go to you first, simply because of Kellyanne Conway's invocation of Catholicism, of your faith. I'd like to get your reaction to that.
Well, I think what she's saying is absurd. I believe she has a conscience, obviously, but I think most people who see what's going on in the border realize that their conscience is telling them that this is outrageous and it's sinful. There's a reason why we're so outraged, and it's because God moves through our consciences and tries to move us towards action. So it's sinful.
Bishop, your reaction?
Well, I would just have to say that for those of us who are Christian, the standard of our conduct and the standard of our life is Jesus of Nazareth. Probably one of the most compassionate people who ever walked on the face of this earth. And this Jesus tells us to love God, to love our neighbor, and that is the fulfillment of all that God intends, fulfills the law and the prophets. And if that is the teaching of Jesus, for those of us who are Christians, we're bidden to follow that. And separating children from their parents is not loving your neighbor.
To the people in our audience who are not religious, have no religion, to atheists, they can come to the conclusion that this is an immoral act without any religious guidance whatsoever. And morality can be found in certain positions without any religious guidance whatsoever or any religious belief. How do you feel when you hear politicians using religion to justify their choices like this?
Well, it's immoral and it's wrong. And it's a misuse of religion. The use of Romans 13, for example, to justify this action. Romans 13 was used to justify slavery. It was used to justify Nazism in Germany. Romans 13 but it was a misuse even of St. Paul. But even with that said, for a Christian to quote Romans 13 over Jesus of Nazareth, as if Jesus of Nazareth doesn't exist, that it seems to me is highly problematic, and it's just flat out wrong, it's unbiblical, it's unchristian, and it's un-American.
Father Martin, you've had your own experience working in Africa with refugees at different points in the past. You've seen these kinds of problems before. What you're seeing on the southern border is familiar to you.
Sure. I worked in Africa with refugees from all over the place and settling in Nairobi, and I saw firsthand what it meant for these people to try to find a new life and flee persecution. No one wants to be a refugee. No one wants to be a migrant, but they do it out of great love for their families. They have a lot of guts to do it, and I think it's up to us to welcome them. As Bishop was saying, Jesus himself says, I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. It's pretty clear. I think the problem with a lot of these Christians who are saying that they're reading the the Bible is, I don't know what Bible they're reading, because the Bible I read has Jesus always reaching out to those who are on the margins, including and most especially migrants and refugees.
And Bishop, you captured the world with your sermon at the royal wedding, and I wonder if you've considered delivering a sermon on this subject.
Well, I did just this past Sunday, actually. Yeah, and the truth is, I have a feeling pulpits across the land, similar sermons were preached. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. My question to all those who have a conscience, and I'm not questioning that, but who may be supporting this policy, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's Jesus talking in Matthew chapter 7, the golden rule. Is this how you would want someone to treat a member of your family? Is this how you would want your children? I mean, I'm a father of children. I remember one time our oldest daughter, she was like 2 or 3 or something, we were in the store, and I turned my head for just a split second, and she wandered away into the little clothing thing. I couldn't find her. I panicked internally. Do we realize that's what parents are feeling when their children are being taken away from them by our government? That's not America. That's not American. We can do better than that.
Father Martin, what would you say to Catholics who hear Kellyanne Conway say to use Catholicism as her justification for the way she views this?
I would say pay attention to your own consciences. There's a reason why when we hear these recordings of kids who are trapped in these cages that it pulls at our heartstrings. There's a reason why we see pictures of kids being taken from their mothers and fathers, why it disturbs us. That's your conscience. And so, you know, Kellyanne Conway can say one thing, but your conscience says something else. And your conscience is where you listen to the voice of God. And also, just as Bishop was saying, come to know Jesus. It's pretty clear what Jesus is saying in the Gospels. I don't know how much clearer you could get than I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. And the consistent message in the Old Testament and the New Testament is welcoming and caring for strangers, period. And if that doesn't work, go back and read the parable of the Good Samaritan.
To the point of conscience being the voice of God, and I just want to again stress that this is the country where the Constitution separates church and state. And we all know, and I think we at this table all grant, that atheists have consciences too. And for them, it is not the voice of God. It is their own voice and their own conscience and their own learnings about the world and their own morality that is telling them what this is when they see it. But Bishop, what would be, if you could get a second with the president, what would you tell him about this?
I would say to him, my brother, do good. Do what is just. Do what is kind. And you'll be following Jesus.
Bishop Michael Curry gets the last word on this tonight. Father James Martin, thank you for joining us also. Really appreciate it, both of you. Thank you. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.